Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Ji ayanu, bakhair agale, ni hao, churashumme, washmale, Ohio gozaimasu, guten Morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, suavio, balli kare aaya, hosh galdin, anayo sayo, khuya mora, Chivato, Chahaliyud, Chihaliyud, and Kalimara, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching What this morning alongside my very wonderful and well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Haja Sati. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your week with us. But first things first, hello Haja, how are you doing today?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for introducing me, Shahzad. So I was watching some of the dramas. I did feel that PTV was way ahead of its time when it started producing its own dramas, and we have always talked about that how it has a very constructive social message incorporated into its storyline, into its plot line. And after the revival of our drama industries back in I think 2007 or 8, I did feel that Pakistan was also doing an amazing job, but somehow I think all the dramas have started catapulting into the same bandwagon where stories are hinged around that old bichari aurat, and she is very mazloom, and she is getting castigated for being too good, right? But I do felt that there's some change in the drama industry, because obviously the viewers, or especially the young urban viewers, they want something new in the drama industry. And I was watching a very nice drama called Pyari Mon. I really wanted to talk about it because she's really fat, and I think we do have one family member that loves to eat, and our ammas is always after that particular person, because there's like, tum kitna khate ho, tum mote ho jaoge. My younger sister is like that, and she's always getting castigated.
I don't know if your younger sister is going to like this or not.
No, I don't think so, and I hope she doesn't watch that. So having said so, but then they have talked about that how people who, and her other sister, Mona's the elder sister, she's very slim, and her husband is very obsessed with her, with the slimness and fitness regime, and he wouldn't even allow her to eat very delicious food. What is the point of having so much money when you can't eat it, right? And also Mona is shown to be a very millennial, urban millennial who's wearing jeans, and she's not projected into the cast, the role of villain, right? Because a lot of time what I see is that the women who are wearing jeans, they're extremely bad, vile characters who are there to, wreck the home of a very good shalwar kameez character. Obviously shalwar kameez is our national dress and we respect it, but having said so, I think generalizing particular people who are wearing a particular type of attire is not at all a true representation of a society, having said so.
Thank you so much, Haja, for pinpointing that as well, because most of the times I've been actually sharing it with people that what you wear does not tell about your religiosity, and I think that's something which everybody needs to kind of know by heart. So for example, what I would say is that beard might be a part of our deen, our religion.
True.
But we cannot say that somebody who actually has a beard will be more religious. So please make sure that you do not draw these lines as well, because society literally these days works very differently as well. And Haja, since you spoke about dramas, and I've done a couple of dramas myself.
True.
And they were on air, across the border as well. So this drama which I did was way ahead of time. So imagine that it was me getting married in that drama serial.
Okay.
And then we've, as a couple, me and my wife within that drama serial figured it out that our mother is pregnant. And so the entire story was around it as well. And at that point of time, I think that it was literally an issue as well. And I'm not the kind of a person who would actually mind, it's their choice, as many babies as they want to have.
True.
But having said that, I am glad that now, that the dynamics of the drama industry are changing, and, it's not just only about bichari aurat. And I think I've seen a couple of dramas where it's the mard now, who's actually a bichara. But one way or the other, ladies and gentlemen, as far as, they entertain you, I think that Pakistan's drama industry has done wonders for Pakistan itself as well. But having said that, there's one small thing which I wanted to talk about, and Haja, so that we can actually get started with the program, and that is that, I was just thinking about yesterday that, our lives actually revolve around how, we have this verbal trust on each other. For example, I'm going to WhatsApp you, or probably we did WhatsApp you last night as well, that, hey, you know what, you'll be on time tomorrow, and things like that. You'll be like, yeah, I'll be there, and I will sort my stuff out, and, you can look at this and whatnot. So it's all verbal communication, verbal promises and trust. And that's something which I've realized that the world actually works on, trust. So for each and everybody who's out there who might have difficulty on everyday basis, please make sure that you actually, when you you know, have a promise with somebody, you fulfill that promise. You know, when you share that trust with somebody, please make sure that you do not lose that trust. Please make sure that you do not fail in making sure that you're going to prove that you're a trustworthy human being, and you will see that life will be literally very easier for you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I think that's a great thing that you keep focusing on making sure that you deliver on the promises. So I think moving on to our top stories, which is, why don't you do the honor?
Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very unfortunate incident took place just yesterday in Peshawar at the police lines mosque. The number of deaths in a devastating suicide bombing at a crowded mosque at the police lines compound in Peshawar has surged to 83. Another 150 are injured. According to police, the explosion occurred in the central hall of the mosque at 1 p.m., causing the roof to come crashing down upon those who were offering Zohar prayers at the time. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun, and we as Pakistanis condemn these attacks as well. And to be very honest, ladies and gentlemen, it is devastating and it is disturbing at the same time as well. And imagine about all of those families who've actually lost their loved ones. We're with you, you know, patience for the bereaved as well, and may their souls rest in peace. Ameen Subhan.
Ameen Ameen. So, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has said that the capacity and efficiency of anti-terrorist institutions and police will be enhanced. During his visit to Peshawar after the deadly blast in the provincial capital, Prime Minister chaired an emergency meeting. Army Chief General Syed Asim Munir received the Prime Minister on his arrival, while IG Police presented a preliminary investigation report about the attack. Prime Minister vowed that the government will ensure the implementation of the National Action Plan with full force and comprehensiveness. He has said that the terrorists create an atmosphere of fear and terror by attacking the institutions, which he said will be thwarted by the strength of the unity of the state and the people. Once again, inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun, especially for the bereaved families, because it is such a devastating loss. And I hope and pray that in the days to come, things will improve and we will get rid of such menace.
Inshallah, inshallah. And now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on, where a 3-day annual Lahori Gur Mela 2023 ended in Lahore, where live organic gur making, horse riding, food stalls, shooting and recreational cultural activities were held under the auspices of Agri-Tourism Development Corporation of Pakistan. The event focused on revival of Pakistani traditional sports, including Gulli Danda, Bandar Killa, Vanju, Pittu Garam, Stappu, Kokla Chipati, Ludo and Lattu. Traditional sports and games can play a vital role in the cultural development of the country. Wow, that's a wonderful news, and I think that this will actually make me ask Hajra, you know, before Hajra asks me, how many of these games have you played, Hajra? Come on, tell me.
I was about to ask you, I think.
Okay,
so I have played the Coco, I have played the Pittu Garam, Steppu, and the Ludo.
What's Steppu?
You haven't played Steppu?
Is it that, you know, when we throw a marble and then we have to do this,
yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9?
Yeah, we call it Stappu in Urdu, right?
Exactly. And what is Bandar Killa?
I don't know. I haven't
I
played
mean,
it.
that's, I mean, if my team knows it, you know, please do let us know as well. What is Vanju?
I don't know.
Vanju. See, you know, I think that this is a wonderful news that we've shared with people out there as well. Imagine that, you know, so Kokalachi Paki, I still remember that, you know, we used to take this, you know, dupatta and then fold it, and then whoever would see around, you know, you actually give them a hit and a blow as well.
Wonderful.
Then there's Coco as well. You know, I cannot read the name of Coco. You know how, I mean, it's wonderful reminiscing over the games we played, you know, while we were kids. Then there was Baraf Pani.
True.
Then there was
London
Pittu
Stop,
Garam, London Stop.
Stop.
Yeah, then there was Kish.
Yeah, Kish.
There was Kish as well. I was good at Kish, you know, because I had 5 sisters. Alhamdulillah, they would always play Kish.
And I think your height would also help you in that game, right? So that's why you were good at it.
Well, but I wasn't that tall when we used to play Kish as well. But I mean, I'm going to go over these games again. So, Gulli Danda, Bandar Killa, Vanju, Pittu Garam, Stapu, Kokla Chapaki, Ludo and Lattu. Wow, yeah, you know, just... All right, so, you know, my producer just told me that in Bandar Killa, I don't know whether I should say it on TV or not, but they say in Bandar Killa that we used to use snippers to hit the other players as well. But, Maran Pithi.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember Maran Pithi, where you actually have a tennis ball and then you actually have to hit the other team members?
How is it different from the Pittu Garam then?
Pittu Garam is you have marbles, right?
Right.
In Maran Pithi, you do not have any marbles. So, you know, whoever throws the ball, you know, goes to the other person. If it hits them, they're out.
So
if it doesn't...
It's carry, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's carry as well. Then there was safe.
Yeah.
You know, so you would have four boys over here, 4 boys over there, or girls, probably, and then you have to run, go touch their wall, their base, and then come back relaxed, safe and sound. Because if
Right.
somebody catches you, it's more like kabaddi as well. But
Right.
I'm excited to see this happening over here in Pakistan as well. And
Right.
I think what we really need to kind of do over here is appreciate and kind of applause for the agri-tourism
True.
people as well
True.
for bringing it to life as well. It's wonderful to talk about early in the morning. But
Right.
having said that, Hajar, do you know that, Pakistani medical students happen to be one of the finest and the top
True.
students all over the world,
True.
really well in demand. So you may go to Canada, you may go to USA, you may go to UK, you may go to any other
True.
country, you will still find a Pakistani doctor working over there, being at the head of the department because
True.
they are the finest. And it is because of the standards we have maintained over here when we talk about medical education.
That's very true, and thank you so much for saying that, because I think Pakistani doctors are one of the finest and they're obviously in the demand. But in order to talk about what sort of problems do they face in the field of medicine and how the innovation and obviously when it comes to the technology, the telehealth, it is changing the contours of the medical education, and especially after the COVID, because we have seen that there are so many practices that a lot of institutions have appropriated according to the conditions of the lockdown and the COVID, and how much changes should be made permanent in the field of education. We are very glad that we are going to talk about it. And to do the honors, I would like to Shahzad to introduce our
Sure,
guest.
thank you so much. So ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by the Chancellor Ibn Sina University, Mirpur Khas, Professor Dr. Sayyid Razi Muhammad Saab. Hello sir, Assalamu alaikum, good morning, how are you?
Walaikum Assalam. I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you so much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you over here where we are set to actually talk about, how to maintain the education standards, especially when we talk about medicine students over here in Pakistan. And so we have seen that obviously, there's a lot of competition over here, but for the universities to keep up with these standards, I think is something which is utmost, which is pivotal, and it is certainly important to make sure that we continue to have that benchmark all over the world. First up, how do you think that the world sees our medical graduates in the first place?
Oh, our graduates are doing fine actually. Like you just said that they're working, they're passing exams. Every week I get a lot of confirmation of our graduates doing well in America or in Britain or other parts of the world. They're doing very well. The thing is that we have not been able to provide them with consistent policies. The health policy or the system, the things keep changing, and because of that, they have had some problem. The problem is not with the new generation. The problem is not with the students.
Is it with the
It's
older generation?
yes, we have to get our act together, and we keep changing the rules every now and then, and every batch that enters has to face a new policy, and that can cause a lot of problems for the new students. But if we get it together and have a consistent policy, then our students marvel.
Right. So, Dr. Saab, talking more about the field of the medical, and I do feel that it is one of the saturated field, obviously, because the healthcare problems are never going to diminish as we progress into the century. But having said so, I do feel that the nursing is one of the field in Pakistan's profession which is very undervalued, and people are not focusing enough in this field. So, you being a representative and a sort of a nexus person who can combine the practice with the research and with the academia, don't you think it's a time to rethink our approach, especially towards the nursing? Because if you go abroad, it is one of the very vibrant field in terms of the healthcare.
They even value their midwives.
True.
Yes, of course. Nursing and midwifery and paramedical training is the backbone of any health structure. We must concentrate on these things as well. But at the same time, if you look at the doctors, there are so much quackery going on in Pakistan. And if you live in a larger city like Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, then you may see that there are a lot of doctors there. But in smaller cities and villages, the healthcare is still covered by the unqualified people and quacks. So I'm not sure if there is actual saturation, or is it just concentrating on two larger cities.
I mean, they're not that well paid in terms of that, especially when it comes to the doctors. No?
Sorry, say it again.
I'm saying that I don't feel that the doctors are very well paid, considering the fact that my own cousin is a dentist, and the way she was telling me how much she invested in the education and the sort of the pay that is she is getting, it's very
You
underrated.
might not be having a private practice, no?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. There are people who are working in government sector, there are people who are working in private sector, and there are people who are having their own clinics. Uh, all have different scenarios. There is always a place for someone at the top, who's best in the field. People always, there is still a lot of respect for doctors,
True.
and there is still a lot of care.
True.
Besides money, I think doctors still enjoy the top slot when the respect in the society goes. Not only nationally but internationally as well. I think there were two occasions when management and sciences and information technology they overtook medicine. Other than that, in the last 20 years, every year medicine is at the top spot when it comes to the trust and understanding. So I think that there is a lot to go in medicine as well, but we have to concentrate on developing the system. We have to have a health policy. We have to have a consistency in our policies, and that will do a lot of good thing for the younger generation.
Exactly. And sir, before we actually move any further, I think I have a question from a wonderful colleague over here as well, because while we
Right.
are talking about, that how we really need to maintain standards, and it's not just about medical education. I think it is alongside when we talk about academia, when we talk about the standards of how people actually work as well, we really need to consider it holistically. But having said that, we have this wonderful quotation by Mr. Henry Ford where he said
Okay.
that anyone who stops learning is old,
Right.
whether at 20 or 80, anyone who keeps learning stays young. What do you have to say about it? Because, I think having said that, because we work on television, there's a lot of reading, there's a lot of research involved, and every day we're learning something new, and it actually gives us that joy. For example, just now when we actually learned that there was this wonderful Gurd Mela which actually took place as well, it kept us excited, right,
True,
on our
true.
tiptoes as well.
That's true.
So what do you take of this very wonderful quotation by Mr. Henry Ford?
Okay, so I love reading, and I think you know about it that I'm a huge book lover, and obviously Mr. Henry Ford said it in a particular context about it. But I think it's a very metaphorical too, and very literal too, Shahzad, because there has been a research that how we can actually reverse the aging, right? And we have seen that research coming on, and we have seen that how it actually is making it. But having said so, obviously the quest for more, to learn more knowledge, to acquire more education, always keeps you on your toes to make sure that you have enough passion to go on into the life and make sure that there is a purpose out there which you can achieve, right?
And that's not just it as well, because when we speak about evolution, I think same goes for the medical education as well. So Professor Saab, coming back to you, that's what I wanted to ask, because you said that there needs to be consistency within the policy as well. But having to speak about such a worthy institution where we're talking about Ibn Sina University, Mirpur Khas, don't you think that it is at your disposal to keep those policies intact, and so that students can actually have that consistency which you're mentioning about?
Yes, of course. The biggest challenge that we face with our doctors, with our students, is that is their line of thinking. You see, the society is so much. There's so much superstitions and so many fallacies in
For
society.
example, sir, for example, what kind of superstitions? For example.
You were talking about COVID, for example.
Yes.
You were talking about COVID. I mean, I just read somewhere that I don't believe in COVID. Well, almost 7 million death, and you don't believe in that. Now, there are things which come out. There is a word in medicine. We have a term we call best evidence practice.
True.
Best evidence practice. That is something that we have to incorporate in our society and in our education system.
True.
You give us a boy or girl who's 18-year-old and he enters into the medical school. Now his mind is not empty. He has full of ideas. He has got, and the society has put these ideas in it. That if you do this, this will happen. If you do this, and they are not empirical things, If you look at the history of the world, I mean, you were talking about Ford just now. If you look at the history of the world, the major changes happen after people started thinking that we have to actually experiment. The dark ages, man came out of the dark ages in the Europe and Northern America when he started believing in experimenting, in finding things, and then the things change. But we still believe in superstitions, hearsay, and then uh, in that situation, we have to change the mindset. That's why in our university, we have annual symposium.
Okay.
And for every student of fourth and final year, it is necessary to do a project, a research project, because only
Wonderful.
then their mind changes and they see the value of research and the value of something which has been established.
But sir, thank you very much for mentioning that as well, and that's something which we have been speaking about over here at PTV World as well. We have been advocating about research and how we really need to put in an effort, and the academia really needs to make sure that they're going to support their students out there. But having said that, sir, very quickly, one last question before we end up this segment, and that is that when we speak about any field, may it be medicine, we do see that there is a lot of research globally taking place, and so we do see that a lot of practices do change over time just because of the fact that previously we might not have been conducting it very well, or there were new researches which came down the line, and now people realize that okay, that the treatments which we were giving earlier, it will be more fruitful if we do it this way around. That's what research helps us with. But having said that, how do you think that the universities, in particular the medicine or the medical universities, actually pick up on these academias that okay, what we really need to do is that we really need to update our syllabi and making sure that we give the best information and knowledge and research and share them with the students who will be coming to our school or college.
And Dr. Saab, before you answered that, Shehzad mentioned a wonderful point here, is that about the cross-cultural care. So there are a lot of patients who come to your table with their own belief system, and sometimes I would like to characterize it like that way, that how actually the misinterpretation or misrepresentation of religion is actually keeping them from adopting the best medical practices. For example, they're going to say that Allah nigeban hai, ya ye Allah ki marzi hai, and then they're not going to follow into that medical practice. So how can you make sure that you can actually incorporate the Islamic teachings or the Islamic values into the field of medicine to make sure that you are catering to the patient very holistically?
I think you have said something which requires our book. No man is an island. We don't live in isolation. There is a perpetual effect of a very opposite side, which teaches people to believe in superstition and these things. I believe in God. I am a Muslim, and I don't think, I think it's the interpretation of Islam which has been taking place, where people say that, for example, if you are religious, you don't believe in COVID, you believe in God. It's not. I mean, every creation is from God. We have to accept that, but God has given us power to think and to find the cure of everything, and that's the right way to do. I think that COVID is a wonderful example of the success of scientific community. Science is a creation of God, and so we have to say that this is a wonderful creation, and because of that, we defeated COVID to a large extent. And the other side, which keeps saying that, and they don't say that science is wrong. They don't say that thinking is wrong. They don't say that experimenting and research is wrong. But from the sideways they come and they try to attack the best evidence practice. And we have to, identify such practices and go against it. Otherwise, they will manipulate the minds of your young scholars, your young doctors, medical students and doctors, and they will all go to the opposite side, and our society will keep falling behind.
Exactly.
That's what I think it is.
Thank you so much, Professor Saab, for being with us. Lovely to be in
Thank you so much.
conversation with you, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we picked up on this topic where we wanted to talk about how do we actually ensure the standards of medical education, and we were lucky that we've been actually joined by the Chancellor of University, Mirpur Khas as well, where he spoke about that how we really need to do a lot of myth busting, a lot of research, and need to make sure that we're really at par with how the world is moving, and we really need to make sure that we inculcate all of these new researches which are coming in as well, because Haja, that's one thing which I've witnessed myself. Now imagine that, post-COVID, and I've mentioned about it a lot of times as well, that, that the doctors were unable to figure out whether what was wrong with my daughter. And, so
Right.
I'm glad that there was this doctor whom I have met over here who actually called upon his professor, so
Right.
the professor came in and he was like, and the professor was really elderly. He was like, that your diagnosis is not going in the right direction. And I think that, this is this new research
Right.
which has taken place, and, let's test her for multi-inflammatory syndrome. And that's exactly
Okay.
what it came out to be as well. And it can only be possible if all of those people who are out there who are responsible of imparting this education,
True.
that they're on top of their research scale. And I
That's
think
true.
otherwise, it's not achievable as well. But having said that, ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of other issues which we are facing over here at this moment of time,
True.
over here in Pakistan particularly, because we do have a lot of inflation. People, on daily basis are having a lot of difficulty in making sure how to make their ends meet. So I think today what we wanted to speak about is that how do we actually improve our resources, resources, for example, which generate income for us. What can we do to make sure that we can actually have a healthier and a happier livelihood, even if it's the most of the time that we see that there's inflation taking place in the country. With that, we actually need to head out towards a
Short break. So don't go anywhere.
good morning.
Okay, so before going on to the break, Shehzad mentioned that how in the era of the global inflation, obviously we need to manage our resources, we need to manage our money, and how to make sure that we have enough money or the resources so that we can have a good lifestyle. And having said so, I think money management is a task which everyone is not very adept at. So to speaking of a very a famous animal shelter at the Karachi, which you might have heard of it, I think its name is ACF. So they were mentioning about one of the case in which there was actually a very young girl of about, I think, 6 or 7 years, and she had a donkey, and obviously they were, because very poor, they were not looking well after that donkey, and the ACF went to that particular girl in the household, and they said that you need to make sure that your children go to the schools and do not go out with a donkey, to make sure that they have enough livelihood, and in return they will give you the money and they will also give you the ration. So what happened was that when they started giving money to that particular family or girl, what happened was that they started using it very mercilessly, and obviously they do not have enough resources to make sure that they could have a good expenditure in the entire month. And so what happened was that they realized that money management is also a skill, and we need to incorporate that skill into those communities which are deprived, which are underprivileged, and which are into the poverty, and make sure that they use their resources well. And I think we have been hearing such kind of cases all around, that how guzara nahi hota in a particular month, or because of the global inflation we cannot do that. So this is a scale, and how to incorporate that, we have a wonderful guest in our studio.
Exactly. And before we actually introduce our guest as well, there's this one thing which I've spoken about before as well. I'm going to remind all of our amazing worthy viewers in 46 different countries again, because today we are speaking about global inflation. Inflation is not just over here in Pakistan. I think it's everywhere. You go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, the fuel prices are going up as well. No matter what happens, the food prices, the grocery prices, everything has gone up. But having said that, that there's only one major difference when we speak about, people who actually living below poverty line, people who call themselves middle class, or people who think that, they are the elitists. There's the only one difference. And that one difference, Hajra, is their purpose to use money. Number one, for example, if we are to speak about people, below poverty line, they're only making sure that, okay, that they're going to get enough money to pay their bills. Now, when we speak about people who we categorize within the society as society members, that they are the middle class, what they do is that they need money to make sure that they have good credit limit to buy things which they cannot afford.
Okay.
Number two. Number three, with the elitist, why do you think that they stay elite or they stay on the top? Is because of the fact that they reinvest. So no matter how much money you save, you certainly need to know where you're saving it. Either you're just keeping it in your bank account. So imagine that if your currency is going to depreciate, ladies and gentlemen, you'll still be in loss. Whether you've invested it in gold, whether you've invested in real estate. So there are different types to it as well. But today in depth, what we wanted to do was that we wanted to talk about how can we actually generate more resources to improve the economy in totality as well. And to actually speak about it, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who used to be the Public Information Officer, United Nations as well. He is Mr. Muhammad Abdul Wahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. Good morning. I'm fine. What about you?
Sir, absolutely perfect. Thank you
Good.
so much for joining us. But
Excellent.
first things first, sir, aajkal, everybody's asking this question, so I'm going to start with that.
Yes.
कैसा गुजारा हो रहा है, sir?
बस हो रहा है.
नमक तो नहीं फेंक दिया मैंने जले पे?
In fact, what is happening?
Yes.
मेरा गुजारा तो किसी तरह हो रहा है.
शुक्र अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह.
But daily, I'm having a number of SOS calls.
Okay.
And I'm feeling really disturbed and sometimes ashamed that having my own limited capacity, I cannot go beyond a certain limit, which is not allowing me to sleep well, you know, because I always go with the feeling to the bed that somebody perhaps is really not able to eat, how he or she would be sleeping, you know. So this is really horrible. This is terrible. And in my personal opinion, human beings are called super creatures, superior creatures, you know. We are supposed to solve our problems, not aggravate our problems.
True.
Unfortunately, what has been happening for last many decades, instead of solving our problems, we have been having, you know, just an approach which aggravates our problems. We do not go after solutions which are in the capacity and in the reach of every common man.
So let's talk about solutions, okay? Let's not go here and there. Let's talk about solutions.
Exactly.
For example, we do see how the prices of vegetables are going up. We do see how the, I mean, almost for every other commodity, the prices have been going up. You know, no matter what, maybe the tire for a car, maybe the fuel for the car, maybe the food on the table.
Yeah.
Everything's getting expensive. Imagine that one Zinger burger we used to get for 500 or 600 rupees is at 900 or 1000 rupees today.
Exactly.
How do you think, okay, so I'm not saying that we really need to have fast food, or it's a valid example, but obviously we'll have to cut out on all of what we used to do now.
Yeah. Shahzad, I would like to bring your questions to be a bit precise level. Let me start from that point.
Sure.
What to do?
Yeah.
You know what is happening? We do not adjust our expenditures according to our income or according to market.
Okay.
What happens, for example, when petrol was 215, I could afford, say 50 liters every month from my pocket.
Okay.
Now, when it has gone to 250, so what should I do? Instead of utilizing 40 or 50 liters, which I was doing, I should cut it short.
But now, sir, your daughter has grown up. She goes to a medical college, and that medical college is 40 kilometers away. What would you do?
Yes, there you are helpless, but what you can do.
So I'll be a common man.
Exactly.
So you give,
no,
give me the solutions, I'll be a common man.
Try, speak to your daughter
Okay.
and ask her to please pinpoint at least 4, 5 or 6 girls which reside in the same area.
Okay.
Or even at a distance of 3, 4 kilometers. You see, so I mean, usually, I mean, we can have a WhatsApp group of the parents, like 5 or 6 parents, and for saving resources, let's distribute the turns. 1 week you take all those 4 daughters. Second week your next, colleague.
Wonderful.
Third week the third person. Fourth week the fourth person.
Yeah.
Exactly. So just try to ration it. At the same time, whenever you're coming to office, you're going back to office. I mean, you know people living around you or other know where you are living. So try to, just limitize your burden on your personal car.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I mean, ideally we should have been having big buses which could have accommodated like 40 to 60 people flying from various sectors to the main hubs of the city. But that is not the case.
Right.
So what we can do, let's share our resources. Our resources meager. I won't restrict myself to this place. You have a household and everybody knows vegetables, fruits and every other thing has gone skyrocketed during last 1 year. Globally as well, but here we have almost 3 times bigger impact. So what we can do? In Islamabad, throughout Pakistan, except perhaps the biggest city, Karachi, we are having small lawns everywhere. You see, if we don't have lawns, we can
Kitchen
use
gardens.
our rooftops. If we don't have natural soil, we can buy flower pots, say 2 dozen flower pots, put it on the rooftop, grow vegetables, put somewhere ginger garlic, tomato,
Things
and
we
other
use
vegetables.
regularly.
You see, you know why we were not doing this earlier? For example, in case of Islamabad, if I would plant spinach, for example, it would cost me say 40 rupees for a small bundle of spinach, which would be available at the cost of rupees 10 in the
So
market.
thank you very much for saying that. But I believe that it's not a very sustainable idea for the people who have been fruit vendors in the first place, the vegetable vendors. Where do you think they'll go? You know, because their sales are going to drop. They're not the people who actually, you know, have a great livelihood in the first place. Now, for example, for all of those people who had these van service
Yeah.
for kids to pick and drop, or, you know, people who actually are taxi drivers and they take or pick up all the students and then drop them, how do you think they will work out? Imagine that, you know, even obviously, you know, metro bus is a blessing over here in the twin cities. Maybe go to Multan or Lahore, but imagine that it kind of did had an impact on the people who were actually running the transport business. But Allah knows better. Obviously,
you're
there
right.
might be a lot of difficulties.
Understand.
So we need to come up with a plan where nobody's business gets dented at least.
Right. Shazad, it's just like the idea of man and machine.
Okay.
You see, if we stick to your hypothesis, we would never introduce machines
Okay.
because machines are enemy of human resource. You see, so what could happen?
Adaptation.
The idea. I mean, suppose there is a street, there are 200 people. Once you introduce the idea of these kitchen gardens, everybody won't do that. People, there are professionals who are damn busy, you know. They don't have even a spare second. They can't do that. People who have comparatively, I mean, they are having resources, they have time, they have water as well, you see. So only they will do that. And its percentage won't be more than, in any case, 30 to 40. Ideally speaking, what we want to limitize, we want to restrict our burden to local market. What is happening? I have been saying this for ages. All these fake eggs, fake milk, so many other commodities. They are fake because there is just too much pressure on market. You see, there's too less supply. So if we bring, say, 30 to 40% supply in the market, no vendor would be affected.
Wonderful idea.
Nobody would be affected. Rather, black marketing will be controlled. You know what happens basically? Let me tell you.
900 रुपए का किलो सर पोल्ट्री मुर्गी सर जो खाने में भी सेहतमंद नहीं है.
Now, I mean, who I can blame? You know, I mean, you know why it has skyrocketed.
So I think we need to address the
amount.
elephant in the room, which is obviously the way we are leading our lives, which is getting very materialistic, right?
Yes.
So a lot of times we do not differentiate between what our wants and needs are, and a very famous definition of the poverty given by the World Bank is $1.5. A person who is earning a $1.5, right? This is the benchmark set for how.
Per day?
One per day. Of course, not per month. So
I mean, $1.5 for Pakistan, I think these days is
It's
just
also
enough.
a
You know,
blessing,
I think it's going to make you 400 or 500 rupees.
That's true, but
Yes.
you cannot lead your entire month in the 400 or 500 rupees. So having said so, I don't believe that this definition is a very holistic definition because if you measure the lifestyle of our ancestor, Nana, Dada, so they were not leading a very luxurious life in terms of having so much material into the house, but yet they focus on the education of the upbringing of their children. And I can't say that they were leading a very unhappy or a life in a poverty because they have their own standards, the definition of that, right? So how can we make sure that we are able to differentiate between our wants and needs, and we can come with a better solution, a multifaceted solution to the poverty?
Well, your question is really too big, and to find solutions is very easy. Implementation of that is too gigantic, you know. The reason being, we have fallen prey to luxurious lifestyle. You know,
true.
I mean, if I ask you to go back to your home on motorbike, you would say, never on my dead body. You see, if somebody asked me,
I'm not that radical or dead body thing.
today I had to drop my car almost 3 kilometers away, and I walked to PTV just because traffic was stuck. You see, I would never have imagined with suit I'm walking on the footpath, but I did because it was a compulsion. So now we have to understand the era of wants is over. Now we are in the era of compulsions. You see, we will have to perforce adopt habits. We will have to become real, simple human beings. We will have to, I mean, set aside luxury cars.
We need to go back to Stone Age. That's what you're
Not
referring
Stone
to?
Age.
I think at times it
Simple.
does feel like as if
I
we're
mean,
going
for
back to
example,
I mean,
30 years
differentiating
ago.
wants and needs is a different
30 years ago.
thing.
30 years ago. In my family, there was a car, but no child was using that car in order to go to school or college or university. You see, we were all using public transport.
transport, yeah.
Public transport was there. What is happening these days? You see, there are 4 members of the family, there are 4 cars, and imagine how much petrol do we need. And this petrol, 250 per liter, this is deadly, you know. I mean, this will make us dead. So what I'm saying, let's adopt, I mean, for example, one bus for 40 people, have your kitchen gardens, don't restrict to kitchen garden only.
किसी किसी दिन
Poultry.
मटन भी पका लिया.
No, that's what I'm saying. For example, have at least 10 to 12 chickens in your small cage within your that lawn or on your rooftop.
Right.
What will happen? I mean, eggs are short. You will be surprised. Almost 15 days ago, my brother-in-law, he went to 4 big stores of Islamabad.
Yeah.
In every department store, they refused him to sell eggs. Eggs were there. And he went, can you please tell me, eggs are there, why you refuse me? Sir, it's not for you. He said, please tell me. Sir, they are reportedly fake eggs.
My God.
Imagine, big stores in Islamabad, we are not talking about Burewala, or we are not talking about any
The not, so,
cent.
not so posh area. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is happening in Pakistan.
And sir, in addition to that, obviously, thank you very much for bringing this to the attention of people, and they certainly really need to be careful about it. But having said that, there's one more debate which we can have, and that is that imagine that when we speak about or when we give examples of the developed countries, obviously this inflation is over there as well.
Yes.
We're speaking about global inflation. But there's one thing which they have always catered to, and that is to the basic needs of the people who live within that country.
Exactly.
Now imagine that if every time when I was in UK
Yeah.
or US, I saw that that when in UK when I went to get bread, it would only cost me 20 or 30 pence. It's not even a pound.
Yeah.
So anything which I would want to eat, I can probably manage it in 1 or 2 pounds throughout the day.
Yeah.
I can get anything to eat. I can travel. I can do whatever. The transportation system is great. That's something which we do understand. So I think that what we really needed to do over here was that we really needed to make sure. For example, I'm going to take you to New York City, where I think it was the Kushner who happens to be the Ivanka Trump's husband as well. So what they do is that they have this Kushner group, who had 22,000 or more apartments all over the United States of America. But in New York City, the government actually regulates that you cannot do massive increase in the rent, so that it actually ensures the livelihood of the people who have rented, right? But we do not have any such policy in place over here where people kind of speak about कि यार मुर्गी का रेट नहीं बढ़ाना, अंडे का रेट नहीं बढ़ाना, नहीं बढ़ सकता, कानून साजी हो जानी चाहिए.
This is misfortune. We did that for dollar.
Yep.
We stopped it at 225, 226. What happened? You see, you were not able to import anything.
The banks even stopped. Yeah,
Your seaports got filled with items and there was no money. Why?
True.
Because this measure was taken.
True.
Now you take the same measure. What will happen? The
there
thing
won't
is,
be any food.
Backfire.
The thing
Could
is, you
backfire.
see, let me tell. The country you mentioned, I have been to New York.
Obviously,
I have
you
been
were
to
a
other
member
parts of US, at the same time England. What happens there? Poor is given sheer importance there. Here, poor is just discarded.
True.
Poor is just thrown out of the world. Basically what happens, we have to ensure that every poor lives, every poor has a shelter, whatever type of it is. You see, basically what happens whenever you allow these capitalistic forces
True.
to operate freely, things do not remain in control. At the same time, unfortunately, our people, when they're at the receiving end, they would deprive people from all their belongings. But when they change their positions, then they want to snatch everything to themselves.
Exactly.
This greed is a curse, basically. Here, when we are eating, we should have a mind and heart that others should also eat. If you deprive them of their basic amenities, basic food, that will fire back. Tomorrow, they will come to kill you.
True.
This we do not understand.
Revolution. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
What
And
we
thank you very much, Vab sir, for being
Thank
with
you
us.
so
And thank
much.
you very much for being honest and vocal about it as well. And ladies and gentlemen, obviously there is this need that we need to speak about it as well. And alhamdulillah, we are glad that, that PT World allows us to have this conversation. Alhamdulillah. And they've always allowed us to make sure that we change your perspective. So for all of those people who happen to be the think tanks, who happen to be the decision makers, who happen to be the policy makers, I think that, one fair solution would be that we really need to make sure that all of those basic necessities needs to be fulfilled at a very mere profit margin. But other than that, when we move on to luxurious item, put on whatever tax you want to put on. Please make sure that you take all the money you want. But please don't do that with basic necessities, with rice, with pulses, with vegetables, with chicken, with mutton, because that ensures the health of your future generation. That ensures that they're not going, that there will be healthier people. It will not have more pressure onto your medical assistance as well, you know, because the medical fraternity will have to put in more effort. You will have to put in more budget over there. So one way or the other, we really need to make sure that basic necessities are available for each and every one of us, whoever is a Pakistani.
So unfortunately, Shahzad, lot many people in Pakistan pay their taxes, and that is the enigma that every government has to confront, and how to answer that we will save the debate for another day. Until next time, it's a goodbye, Allah Hafiz, and good morning.